Video games. I had this nagging sense this whole week that I should be focusing more on learning stuff in Unreal, doing more for Equinox for this render I'm doing, but you know, they're being super laid back about the whole thing. I really shouldn't feel that much pressure about it. I should keep working on it and keep learning, but I don't need to stress about it. And then the cracked work hasn't been too much of my time, so yeah, I jumped on a bunch of random video games for hot various seconds this week. Starting with, yeah, when Brandon and Katie were here, I played Metal Gear Solid 5, which was a ton of fun to jump back into. They made a lot of really weird changes, though. I mean, some of them, I guess, are kind of cool. They added a whole, like, you know, complete this task with a bazillion rewards. Like, just by logging in and seeing all the tasks I'd already completed, I got, like, a bazillion dollars and totally maxed out my research. Then I played a quick mission just to kind of show Brandon, you know, what it's like to extract people, a couple side missions, and then I fought Solar again and totally wrecked it and got an S rank. So that was fun. MGS5, still fun, still feels kind of empty, like things are missing. Kojima finally announced that he is starting his own studio, like totally independent, no overseer like Konami. It's called Kojima Productions. They can't make anything Metal Gear related, but I think that's probably a blessing for Kojima since that has been his life for the past 28 years, however old I am. And yeah, he hasn't gotten to do much else. So I think it'll be good for him to move on. Here's the weird thing. Konami is making the new Metal Gear game. They're hiring and getting that going. Unfortunately, Metal Gear Solid 5 sets up such an incredible groundwork for a fantastically playable game. And each game has been each Metal Gear game under Hideo Kojima has been totally different from the one before. Maybe MGS2 and MGS3 had a little bit in common mechanically, but the stories were different enough and the settings were different enough that they really felt like different games. But if Konami now was like, oh, we've got this awesome Fox engine thing, we've got this really great asset creation system, and some really solid, you know, AI characters set up. Let's take the template of Metal Gear Solid 5 and then just start doing basically what Assassin's Creed and Call of Duty do, and don't make each game a radical departure from what was before. Let's just kind of keep slowly building on it in the same way Adobe makes like little changes to Photoshop and InDesign and Premiere every year. Yeah, it's unfortunate because I love the mechanics in place for Metal Gear Solid 5 so much that if Konami was like, hey, we're releasing a new Metal Gear game, it's called The Rise of Outer Heaven, and it takes place in all sorts of new environments, but the gameplay is pretty much the same, and the storyline is, you know, super simple because we don't have Kojima, and yeah, don't even worry about the story, it's mostly about the gameplay. I would probably buy it because I feel like the mechanics here are so fantastic and they're not being used that well because you're just stuck in Africa and Afghanistan and the missions are all the same. And so they threw in some of the wacky like side-op kind of missions that we got in Peace Walker, the Puyon stuff, the hold up people with a banana, some of the weirder stealth missions. I would buy it. And that's unfortunate because I don't want to support Konami because they sound like a terrible company. And yet I love these games enough in this game style that I could certainly be tempted. Here's what I would do. I wouldn't buy it right away. I would wait for a Steam sale or something like that. How's that? But who knows if they even have the intelligence to pull off what probably would be a pretty easy thing, slapping a few new things on the system already in place. So that was Metal Gear Solid 5. I also played Virtua Tennis 3 with Brandon, which, funnily enough, exactly a year ago I was also playing, and I think that was the last time I played it, which, you know, there's a whole like campaign to it, which I got kind of far in last year, just doing different matches and all that, but it's a pretty straightforward game, but a good two-player game, so Brandon and I played that. That was fun. I give that 4 stars, or 3 stars, 3 stars with confidence 4. Yay, Virtua Tennis, which he remembered, by the way, from like back in the Dreamcast days, so I think he got a kick out of it. Also, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which takes place in London, and it's fun, and I like the two characters, and I like London. London's like one of my favorite cities in the world. London and Tokyo, and I guess New York. I guess I should call New York one of my favorite cities. But it's a lot of fun, and I'm enjoying it, and I hope to do more in it. What else? I played more of Braid, a couple levels last night. I was super tired. I was trying to keep Liz company while she was hanging out with this guy, but I was exhausted, and so I was like, I'll play a really simple game. And in my head, for some reason, I was thinking, Braid will be simple, it's 2D. But we were doing some really complicated puzzles that like my brain couldn't process. And similarly to when I play Portal, Liz is really good at like figuring out puzzles and being like, oh, put this there, then do this, then do this, then jump this. And she's always right, she's good at that stuff. But then like in this case, like my brain was just not functioning, and she would say how to, solve a little puzzle on there, and I'd know intellectually what she was saying, but I couldn't do it. So there was like this one simple puzzle that took me like 20 minutes to do. But Braid's a great game. Contrast, I also checked out. That's the shadow game that was being used as a precedent in Lonsway's studio, and I assumed it was a 2D game. It's actually a 3D game. It's a ton of fun. I haven't gotten that too far in it. There's kind of a sad little, orphan girl plot line going on, and I jumped around a bunch and did stuff with shadows. It was really cool. And as a puzzle-solving game, it's a really cool mechanic, this whole idea that you can go into the shadow world and do all sorts of things. And I kind of like the fact that I think all of the other characters are shadows, and so the whole story is being told just through these shadows. So really cool storytelling device. I'm enjoying that a lot. Let's say 4 stars with a confidence of 2. Next. And lastly, because I was still kind of thinking about James Bond, and I rewatched Casino Royale. Still a fantastic movie, still love it a lot. And actually, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but so after seeing Spectre, I rewatched Skyfall, Casino Royale, and Quantum of Solace. And I already thought Casino Royale was amazing, but both Quantum of Solace and Skyfall kind of rose in esteem for me. I thought they were even better than I remembered, and a lot of the things that kind of bothered me, nitpicky things watching it in theaters, didn't bother me as much, and so they just felt like better movies, which unfortunately, unless I like Spectre a lot more the next time I see it, doesn't fare well for that movie as a ranking of my Daniel Craig movies. But was in a James Bond mood, so I played 007 Reloaded, GoldenEye, which, it's so sad for Pierce Brosnan that they're like, hey, we're remaking this game that you were in that was one of the most popular games of all time, but we're replacing you with Daniel Craig. So I'm playing a little bit through the campaign and having fun with it. It's interesting to compare it to something like, like not Assassin's Creed, another first-person shooter game, like, I guess, Call of Duty or something like that, because the controls don't feel super tight. A lot of shots I don't quite pull off that I feel like I should be able to, but it's fun. It's a good distraction. It's a good turn off your brain kind of thing. I think it's important with video games to have a bit of a hierarchy of knowing like, okay, I want to be engaged, I want to be intellectually stimulated, I want to figure things out, and knowing what that tier of things are versus like, I just feel like doing something in a low power state where my brain can almost be off, but just, take my mind off something that's bothering me or something like that. And it's good to know which games can pull that off. So I think 007 is a good candidate for that category. And there's some fun animations, cool cinematics that feel very James Bond-esque. So there's video games. Pew!